going to change the world, like MP3, because it's changed the way that we listen to music.
Because it's an open source protocol, there's an opportunity for anybody to start to develop applications and software that can integrate with Bitcoin.
Technology is very well distributed and a very grassroots thing right now. I would say 100% of the skill set I have is possible for someone to acquire on the internet for free.
The best way to learn is by getting in there and actually doing it.
It's amazing how fast the world of cryptocurrency is progressing. Since the last episode, New York introduced a bit licence as an attempt to regulate the industry. Australia's tax office decided cryptocurrency was a property. Apple have announced their own digital payment system. And banks around the world are experimenting with a digital network called Ripple. Differing philosophies continually debate Satoshi's white paper. Centres and embassies are growing in popularity. What this software is making available is causing people to rethink existing structures.
It represents social justice, that is an evening of the playing field for people, the ability to control your own wealth, control it in the sense that you don't have to pay third parties to deal with your accounts. You can actually send peer-to-peer, person-to-person, essentially. So in terms of a cryptocurrency transaction, when you send 1 Bitcoin to someone, they get 1 Bitcoin. You don't have that series of people with a handout in the process of that transaction.
It seems the race is on to strengthen networks using Bitcoin's technology. People who have worked with it since inception have done so without advertising, marketing budgets, or professional PR agencies to educate people on what Bitcoin is and how it works.
This for me, I take up to like 30% of half the image can be destroyed and it will still work. So QR codes are actually pretty cool.
OpenSkyOrganics.com.au to buy with Bitcoin. Then you can go onto Ash's website and convert the other money that you
Entrepreneurs have confronted this challenging task, preempting a burst of adoption with hardware and gateways built to allow the flow of digital currencies into the real world.
We've purchased a number of different ATM models to really test the technology, see what people have developed. So we've bought a RoboCoin, we've bought a Genesis, we've bought a BitAccess, and we've bought a Lamassu. And there have been natural issues with them. I mean, one, I'm not going to keep it a secret, is RoboCoin, where they tried to force our customers to use their wallet. And this all happened as a surprise. There wasn't any lead time. So we basically said, no, we're not going to do this. This is too big a risk for us and our customers. And we turned off the machine. And then we reached out to all of the other RoboCoin operators, and we found that they were all in exactly the same boat and had exactly the same negative experiences and felt exactly as strongly about this not being in the spirit of Bitcoin. The majority switched off their machines, and we came up with our own software solution which did not mandate what wallet to use to get your Bitcoin. And we were up and running again within a couple of weeks, and it wasn't a huge disturbance, but it was an issue that we experienced and a little speed bump along the way that we've had to get over.
I hate credit cards, not because I'm anti-bank, but the idea that I have to go into debt to buy something and then pay that debt off over X years at 1,000% interest or whatever is really unappealing to me. Bitcoin is a debit-based system where I don't have to go into debt to do anything. That's cool. I'm the founder of BitPOS. We're a payment gateway, Bitcoin payment gateway. We enable merchants to accept Bitcoin as payment, and we remit to them in Bitcoin or in Australian dollars, whichever they choose. BitPOS as a business punches really well above its weight. Like, we've got 2 people that are operating the business on a daily basis. We did some scale testing the other day, and without any effort at all and breaking no sweat, we can scale to 6,000 simultaneous transactions just like that. Our ethos is to automate everything. So anything that can be automated in a business is automated already. And that's how we're able to punch above our weight.
This is point of sale terminal. It's capable of all your conventional payment methods, smart card, RFID. The silver thing on the front is actually a fingerprint reader. The ability for someone to go in and pay for an item using nothing but their fingerprint. The person that has the Bitcoin that wants to spend it doesn't need to have a mobile phone or any other piece of technology to allow them to spend it. Ultimately, yes, if someone wishes to pay with just a fingerprint or with a smart card, then yeah, they will have to have an account registered with my company with that information. But I'm not interested in taking ownership of the Bitcoin. I'm working on ways to just keep a person's Bitcoin, their own Bitcoin. They have full control of private keys.
The beauty of Bitcoin infrastructure is that it's open and available for anybody to tweak and relabel to suit their own purposes. Many agree that mobile platforms will become the preferred method for financial flow in the future. And this is causing a lot of competition between companies to make their apps be the default choice for consumers.
But Apple Pay doesn't mark a massive new technological breakthrough. It's just a convenience measure, really.
Apple will make mobile payments sexy, but then people will realise, you know what, Bitcoin's actually a better underlying protocol for mobile payments than credit card is. So if Apple open up the NFC chip to third-party technology providers, which they currently are not doing, then yeah, I think a lot of Bitcoin companies will jump on that bandwagon and be able to provide really cool mobile wallets which are based on the Bitcoin technology. So I think that's highly probable.
Bitcoin's system has passed the test as a global payment network for micro and macro payments. Financial institutions are making their own blockchains, borrowing heavily from the original concept, bringing many but not all of the features of decentralised cryptocurrencies. One company making such a splash is Ripple.
Personally, the things that excite me about Bitcoin and excite me about blockchain technology are not present in Ripple. Because in Ripple you have a centralised party that can cancel transactions, reverse transactions, and ultimately is in control of the currency.
Ripple is a digital currency, you know, and even though it seems to be branded differently, and it certainly does have some very significant differences, it still is a digital currency. And I think the idea of it being a gateway product or an introductory product is interesting. They've gone, okay, what is the problem that is really a touchy friction point for banks, and that's cross-border payments? How do we create a business model to get increased efficiencies and reduce costs in that particular area? I think that it does introduce the concept of digital currencies to banks as well, and the concept that they're not just Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does have some reputational risks. And once they get comfortable with the idea of digital currencies, and then they can readdress the idea of Bitcoin and see beyond the headlines and what the true potential is.
This is the first instance we've seen of a digital free market, and it hasn't been without drama. Ross Ulbricht was sentenced to life in prison for creating a dark market website, which attracted 2 undercover agents. They pleaded guilty to laundering large amounts of Bitcoin during an investigation to prove that Ross was a criminal. Governments have felt the need to step in to regulate this free market and protect their citizens from potential crime. In the case of New York, they introduced a whopping 45-page BitLicense, which was the source of heated online debate and the departure of a few businesses from their jurisdiction. It begs the question, is it even possible to regulate a decentralised peer-to-peer network?
Well, it's not very easy because regulation, to some extent of its very nature, freezes things. Of its very nature, it needs to know what it's regulating, and innovation keeps changing its form. It's very protean. So the unfortunate thing is that regulation can have such a powerful effect in chilling innovation and making innovation difficult.
The BitLicense, it's so bad that it really makes you think, okay, it can't be a joke, okay? So, it's a sort of a negotiation process. Again, going back to a car sale, to a second-hand car. Okay, I'll give you $100 for it. Looks pretty bad. That's ridiculous. And then the negotiation starts. So it's one of those ridiculous, outlandish first offers.
The bit license applies to anyone who issues or administers a virtual currency. Obviously, issuing a decentralized currency doesn't make sense because no one issues a decentralized digital currency like Bitcoin. So there are some gaping holes even in the final version of the bit license that just don't make sense.
Governments need to be very careful with their regulation of Bitcoin if they want the innovation to happen in their country. I know that a lot of the politicians in Australia are talking about Australia becoming a tech hub and an exciting technical visionary and having all of these clever technical people becoming our primary economy. All of these Bitcoin companies are suddenly setting up in Panama or the Isle of Man or in Switzerland. And that's because the regulatory framework is very favourable for them.
The biggest change that we've seen for Australian Bitcoin businesses is setting up offshore structures or changing their business model so as not to attract the double GST. So we've seen, for example, CoinJar move part of their operations to London, and although there were different reasons given for that, one of the benefits was to have a structure which didn't attract double GST.
In the US, the Bitcoin Angel Group is strongly suggesting that companies set up as a DAX, as a distributed autonomous corporation, because some of the rules in the US, particularly around Bitcoins, may be not as Bitcoin friendly, and this is why I think a lot of US companies are actually going offshore. And once they go into the whole notion of a distributed autonomous organisation in cyberspace, how do you tax them? How do you have control over them? You don't. So the right kind of regulation within frameworks actually makes a lot of sense.
There's an excitement in the air surrounding cryptocurrency. The technical skill of early adopters together with the passion of enthusiasts are bringing confidence to the market. Regardless of the rules and regulations starting to frame this technology, the tenacity of the people advocating this philosophy is one that's being marked in our future's history books. Cryptocurrencies have reminded us we can create and nominate any currency we want to use. This is a pivotal era for humanity. And Bitcoin's value? Well, the trust in the network is intrinsic for many, just as the trust in a dollar symbol has been for many years.
$100 worth of Bitcoin in 2010 would now be worth $500,000. So that's quite an amazing fact. And for anybody that is involved in financial services or financial planning, for them not to have Bitcoin on their radar is a little bit short-sighted, in my opinion.
Everyone from US Treasury to other entrepreneurs to professors at universities, I think this is such new technology and there's so many exciting things you can do with it that everybody is interested in finding out what's going on and in finding out where this could take us. So we're starting to see that even in Australian media now. We're starting to see a number of big names say that they are excited by the technology too and the potential for how they could use it in the future.
This is what Bitcoin really represents as a major challenge to the dominance of a small number of highly profitable businesses in pretty much the biggest sector of the world economy. In a time when technology is exploding and really important and they can't get their business working right, well, it's because they had an old school mindset and they weren't really looking towards the future that ended up happening.
Regulatory bodies, in my experience, spend most of their time looking at their in-tray. And this question doesn't arrive in the in-tray. This question is a system question. I have lots of conversations with people and they think they're terrific conversations. They say, how interesting, please come and talk to me again. But then they go back to their in-tray. And as far as making the world slightly different, well, I may as well not have had the conversation.
A massive technological reboot is currently unfolding in real time. A lag in response, especially around financial issues, is now regarded as unacceptable. Values are shifting, time is a commodity, and many want to spend it on matters that count, rather than waiting in lines for answers to simple questions. Ironically, during all that waiting in a system facing the prospect of becoming obsolete, a solution from an anonymous source arrived in a cryptographer's forum on a simple white paper, and that discovery has caught so many experts off guard. It brings with it a big question as we approach a fork in the road of these uncertain times. Which direction are we going to choose?
Why do you need to have roads owned by a government? Why can't people own the roads in their street? Charge people to go up or down them. If the street doesn't want a lot of people going up them, they can charge a lot or a little.
It's if I vote for Kim.com, I'm voting for Kim.com. And I don't like the idea of voting for people. I want to vote for policy. I want to vote for, an idea, not get behind one person as our supreme leader.
The first generation of smart contracts is going to be the stuff where it just takes one element out of the hands of humans.
The concept of machine-to-machine interactions that don't involve humans at any point.
Can you follow thieves? If you have external information about, say, like the size of the theft or something like that, then it's much easier with timing to go and find that particular transaction.